One of the challenges that we face when we start doing deeds in our faith is that there's a much greater spiritual warfare that takes place around us. And sometimes that's hard to recognize. I know it took me a long time to recognize that and figure out what was going on. And I think especially for Americans in the West here, because we're a little bit distracted about these kind of things, we don't really recognize that a lot of times for what it is. I've been a full-time writer and speaker now for 5 years, a little over 5 years. And before that, I owned an environmental engineering firm for 16 years. And led a pretty good life, had pretty much everything you could have to be successful. We had money, we had all kinds of stuff. And one day, a long-term client of ours sued us, and because we had to file a claim with professional liability insurance, now I couldn't afford premiums anymore. So basically it put me out of business, okay? So I'm a middle-aged man, been self-employed for 20 years. I'm virtually unemployable now. Okay, nobody's going to give me a job. And I had written a book, I think, and I was kind of doing this on the side part-time for a few years, and so I thought I would go full-time ministry someday, but probably not then, okay? But that was not God's plan. Well, I went full-time ministry, and there wasn't a lot of money coming in. I'm trying to figure out how to make a living doing this. And after about a year and a half, we had used all of our savings, we had used all of our investments, we had used all of our retirement to live, and we're at a period where we were relying on God's manna to provide for us on a daily basis, okay? I mean, literally. And it was tough for me, okay? Because as a man, how I get my self-esteem is through providing, right? And the money that I earn, okay? Well, I'm not making a lot of money. And so one day, this thought occurred to me. This thought said, you're not making a lot of money, Rick, but you have a really big life insurance policy. I thought, yeah, I do. That's true. And I didn't really think about it, and as the weeks went by, I kept thinking about that, and it started making a lot of sense. I mean, it started making sense to the point where I started getting a little bit nervous about it, okay? You're worth more dead than alive. And finally, after weeks of thinking about this, one day, after a discussion with my wife about finances, we went for a walk, and I worked up the courage to share with her this thought that I'd been having. And she broke into tears, and she said, I have been thinking that I don't make you and the kids happy, that I'm not doing anything to contribute, that you guys would be better off if I were gone. You'd be better off if I were dead. And we both knew instantly that those whispers in our ear were not from the Lord, that those were whispers from the evil one who was trying to take us out in the very area where we were working for God, families. And if he could destroy our family, he could destroy us from continuing to do God's work. And it was very eye-opening for me, and it's something that I still have to pay attention to a lot, is those subtle attacks of spiritual warfare.